Welcome to using Adobe Mixamo with Unreal Engine 4, where we're going to use Adobe Mixamo Fuse 1.3 and Mixamo Store animations to create characters for your Unreal Engine 4 games. This is Keith, also known as Darkholder from Mindless Pursuits, and let's dive in. Software we're going to use in this session is Unreal Engine 4.9.2, along with Adobe Mixamo Fuse 1.3 and the Adobe Mixamo website. The objectives for this session: we're going to create a character using Fuse 1.3. We are going to auto-rig the character using the Mixamo website. We are going to add animations to your character. We're going to import the character and animations into Unreal Engine 4. And then I'm going to show you how to use the engines, or the animations. What I'm not going to cover in this is how to do non-Fuse character customizations. So in other words, I won't be pulling the characters into 3ds Max or Blender or Maya or any of those type of tools to do additions or changes. I won't be animating with any of those external tools. I'm not going to show you in this video how to do Unreal Engine animation blueprints or animation offsets and blends. We'll actually cover those in a separate dedicated video sometime in the next couple of weeks. So why don't we go ahead and jump on in. So to start with, this is the Adobe Mixamo website. Mixamo used to be a standalone product that you could purchase through Steam and other ways through the Mixamo website for character creation and rigging, but they were purchased by Adobe in the spring of this year and are currently heading towards the release of a new product that will be integrated with Photoshop Creative Cloud Edition. So it's interesting to see the direction they're going, and being a Creative Cloud user already, that works fine with me. Others may not be so thrilled, but at the moment I wanted to cover this because as of October 5th, they have a limited time free use of all the tools. Now, they aren't saying when this free usage ends, but at the moment you can go and you can get a lot of good animations. You can create some characters and such, so I wanted to cover it. You will, however, have to have an Adobe ID. So if you don't have one already, you can go to the www.mixamo.com website, which will bring you to this page. And you can click Sign Up. And you can make an ID here. And then once you have one created, go back to the Mixamo website and you can sign in. So I'm not going to cover all that right now. I'm certain everyone has signed up for websites before, so I won't walk through that. But once you have your login, go ahead and log in. And it remembers mine from last time. So I log in, and just to show you quick before we go into Fuse, you can go to the store, and in the store they have animation packs. And they have characters that you can download. Now, they used to have a whole different suite of characters up here. The ones you see here currently are ones they've just released as of the 5th that show some changes that they're doing. So there's a slight better level of detail in the faces and coloring and other things compared to Fuse 1.3. I can kind of see the difference. I don't see it as much as I kind of expected from reading their blog post, but it's there. So take a nice close look at him, and then I'm going to go over to My Assets. And then these are characters that I've either created or characters that I picked up from them earlier. So let's take a look at, I think Victoria was one. No, let's look at Vincent. So we have a nice male character to compare to. So it loads up. You can see there's definitely more detail in the newer models. Not a ton more, but there is more detail. And then once you're in here, you can get the animations and apply them to your account. And that's really what I've been doing. I've been going through and making sure I have all the animations that they have, and they have animations on all sorts of different things. And so let's say I want to choose an animation for a character. I can do it from in here. So I'll do, for instance, that. I'm not going to walk through how all this works right now. But you can see it applies a character. So if you want to add that to a character you already have, you would go in, you would choose the character. Let's see where my character of myself is, for instance. I can click on Keith. You can see it adapts that animation to me, at which point I can save it or export it, do some minor changes and all that, which we'll explore in a bit. But for now, let's go to the products page, Adobe Fuse CC, and this actually shows screenshots from the CC product that's coming. And this one isn't available for download yet, but you can download Fuse 1.3. And I imagine that the new Fuse CC, when it's released, won't be much different. And so for now, go ahead and download Fuse 1.3. If you're a Steam user, you might still be able to get it through Steam. That's where mine's through. So I'm going to actually jump over to Steam and launch my copy to show you. Here is Fuse 1.3. And of course, once you download yours, you can always double check by going to the About. But this is it. It's the only one available at the moment. And as you can see, you have a lot of heads and stuff off to the right, torsos, legs, arm. It's basically a piecemeal system for putting together a character. And there's a lot of different things you can do, but really I just tend to leave the defaults as far as all these settings go. So these are opening and saving, and if you only want to render edges and faces. And these are the different tools for navigating around the view. So you start off in assemble mode. What you can do is, let's go ahead and let's create just let's just create a standard elf. Do we have a male elf here? We have a female elf. We have a male elf. Nope. Okay, we'll go with female elf, which won't be the most realistic looking character, but the process works the same. So once you've clicked on a part, it will show up, and then it will take you to the next segment for a person. So you've got the body. You can grab arms. And of course, if you want to go back and change some of this, for instance, if we want to change the torso, we could actually go to, instead of the elf body, we could go to the female fit H body, and it will blend everything together. We can go to the arms, and we can always change the type of arms. So we have the fit F arms. Really, you just click on things and play around a bit. The legs. Let's go ahead and go back to our elf legs. And once you've got the body together, you can go through and you can start doing customizations. Now there are two ways to do customizations to get started. You can either just float the mouse over the part of the body you want to change. So for instance, the ears, the head. Click on Customize. And it will take you to the detail for whatever it is you want up in this section here. So if we click on the ears, we can actually change it to where they are back to being more rounded as opposed to pointy. So maybe we don't want to be quite as pointy. We can say if they would have a lobe or no lobe. So we'll go ahead and let the ears be lobed. If you want to change your arms, for instance, click on that, it's got the elbows, but you can also, it pulls up the rest of the things related to the arm. If I click on the leg, it'll show this thigh region, but you can also go down here and click on legs and get to it as well. Thighs thin and thick, so we could really make those thighs big or really make them skinny or whatever you want. Change things around. And just play with the settings until you get the character that you want as far as the overall look goes. So you might change some stuff on the face. Now, Fuse does come with morph controls, and for those who don't know what morph controls are things that, in this instance, affect the face to do smiling, or opening and closing of eyes, or scrunching of the nose, things like that. And you can get some of that by playing with these extra controls down here. So if I do the opening of the mouth and such, and that's how you can get to animations for vocalizations and such. But realize that there aren't animations within the current version of Mixamo that take advantage of that. There are tools for Unity that they used to have that would allow you to do facial animation. So you would actually use your webcam and it would map to your face and you could do this. Those don't work with Unreal at the moment. In theory, if you had a prior version of Unity, you could load the plugin into Unity, do it, and then try and export those over, but that's kind of a pain. So I'm hoping that with their new approach, they're going to make that a broader tool that can work with other game engines rather than just Unity. But for now, you can play around with things and get the stuff. So we'll click on her arms. We're going to make her a little more muscular. So I'm going to find arms here too. And we'll make her biceps a little bigger, triceps a little bigger. We can affect how long her fingers are. You might have slightly longer fingers being an elf maybe. I don't know. But you can tend to get into a lot of different details. We can make her more wide-shouldered, or more thin-shouldered. It's just kind of up to you. You can affect the teeth, and how the teeth fit in and so on. And once you've made those adjustments, you can go into clothing. And it comes with a bunch of clothing selections, not everything. And I have a feeling this is going to be one of the major changes when the new system comes, is you'll have maybe a more modular clothing system that it even is today. It's fairly modular if you're going down the list. You have tops, bottoms, shoes, hair, hats, etc. But I have a feeling you might get into specific segments of the clothing that you can change. Plus, the new version is going to integrate with Photoshop, so hopefully, easier painting optimizations and such. Although you can get substance fabrics, at least for Fuse 1.3, it's an add-on that you can purchase from the creators of Substance, whose name is suddenly going out the window for me. So for now, let's just go ahead and let's make our elf somewhat armored. We can make her into some sort of archer or something down the road. And it will adapt the clothing to the body shape. And then we can go to bottoms here, and let's see what type of bottoms we have for a elf that's ready for battle. And I don't really see anything that looks super close to it, so I'm going to go with the lace pants. Okay. And for shoes, let's go with some nice boots. Forest Dweller doesn't want to walk around without boots. I don't like those boots as much. Let's go with these boots. Okay. And then you can change things with the hair. You can go slightly more with an elvish style of hair. And as I'm making these choices, realize that these choices have flexibility as well. But first we need to get in and change stuff around. I'm not going to bother with a hat. Not going to bother with eyewear, although I really do like playing with glasses and stuff. So you can always put a pair of funky glasses on your elf if you wanted to. I'm not going to, so I'm going to go ahead and undo that. You have beards, you have gloves. You could do one of a few masks or mustaches, but we won't do any of that. So once you have it, again, you can, well, you used to be able to double click, now you can't. But you can go in and you can start changing textures. So right now I have the hair, and you can change the color. Click on the color and you can make it darker or lighter or whatever you want it to be. You can save colors if you want the colors to coordinate. You can change how saturated it is, so you might be more grayish than dark brown, streaks, all sorts of stuff, and it would take me quite a while to walk through all these. So all I'm going to say is you're better off playing with these, and these are substance driven. So I think, note I say think, I've never tried this, you might be able to use substance to affect these real time at some point in the future. I don't know if it supports it today, I've never tried it, but if they're substance driven, and I believe they are, then maybe you can use the algorithmic tools to do it. So you can do that. Then you have controls over the shaders as well, normal maps and fall offs and all that. And I'm not going to get into it all. There's just a lot going on. If we click on the tunic, you can do this. You can adjust textures for higher resolution. I tend to have all mine set to max out anyway. You can change the individual parts of the fabric. So right now there's wool, but the color of the wool is different. And you can change things like that around. So here's the colors. I could change that, and I could make that a lighter color. Give it a second, it will update on the character. So you see how that got lighter. What's weird is that one really didn't get much lighter, but then there's the drape, and I think that was part of the drape. You can change pattern amounts, and you can do all sorts of things with it. Of course, as you make changes, it needs to update them all. And so I'm not going to walk through all that either, but just realize that there is a lot you can do. And then there are different substances down here you can change, or colors you can change, whatever it is that's appropriate for you. If we click on the legs, I can change that color as well, change the main fabric. And we can change that color to look a little more like our other color in terms of being more brown. If I can find the color. Need more of a gray. Let's turn down the saturation a bit. And I'm not going to be able to get it to be perfect, but it's a little better. And so on. And you can even adjust the thread on different clothing if they have the thread in there. Then you can go into things like the face. And while you're under textures, you can even change things like skin color. So I can make that skin color a little lighter or a little darker or whatever is appropriate. Get rid of that center one there. And you can change the hues, and you can add beauty marks. You can give them makeup. You can give them suntans and tan lines. You can change the type of teeth, although really sticking with the 1.3 and above seems to be the best, because then you have the better morph patterns and so on. You can change everything from nails to lip gloss to eye color, the whole works. So if we zoom in, using the mouse wheel, you can zoom in. You can get more detail here. So I can go back to the texture, go back down to the eyes, and I could actually make her eyes a little darker green if I wanted to. I could make them blue or whatever is appropriate. And so that's the eye border. And the eye center was a slightly different color, but we can do that. Now you can see it's more green there. You can change the pupil shape, which doesn't mean much when the eyes are fully dilated, but let's say okay to those. You can affect hair here as well if you didn't pick out a different hair. So, if you don't have one of the fancy hair patterns, you can get some that are just built into the skin, basically. Again, if we go back to teeth for a moment, let's go back to customizing our teeth. We can actually do things like, make the canines longer, or we can make them chipped, which you can see it's affecting the teeth. We can also make the upper canines long to be vampire-esque. Basically whatever we want. So I just want to show you that while I was zoomed in. And let's see what else might be here. You can change eyebrows, you can change the normals. You can make the pupil smaller if you wanted to. Let's see if we can find something here. Face freckles. You can turn that up, and there she's got more freckles, and overall freckles visibility is higher, so we've got a nice freckled elf. And away you go. And then you would save it. And if you save in fuse format, it keeps all this detail, so you can pull it back in. I'm just going to save her as Mixamo Elf. You can also choose to do a save as and save with a different name. You can do an export as an OBJ. You can download the content creator package, which allows you to do some basic morphs and all that, which you'll then pull into something like 3ds Max to really do your work on before you take up the Mixamo. But once you've got it all done, you can choose to animate. You'll click on this button, and it'll want you to log in. Once you've logged in, you can click Upload, and it will send your information up to the Mixamo server at the website. And once it is done doing that, it will open up the website, and I will come back and show you. So what will happen is that it will open up the auto rigger on the website once it is finished uploading the model. The auto rigger is creating a skeleton for the character, a rigged skeleton, so you can begin animating. Then you can start applying animations to it. Okay, so it loads, and you can get a preview there. And now you can change a couple things if you want. You can turn off facial blend shapes. What they're calling facial blend shapes are actually your morph targets. So those are the things that control the lips and the eyes and so on for facial animations. So I would just leave those enabled. There's no real reason to disable them, other than with them enabled it takes longer to import into Unreal, but that's not a big loss. Your skeleton level of detail, you can decrease the level of detail. Again, for our purposes in Unreal, I would just leave it the standard as it is. You'll say Finish. And it gives you a nice list. Auto rigging has been completed. Here are all different things you can use it with. Click on View in My Assets. And it will pull it up, and you can see it. So there's your character. Sometimes, at least in my experience, it doesn't always display quite right in here when you have a lot of different things going on. So you can see her hair color is not quite right. It doesn't look like all the color come into her tunic. But trust me, when you go to import into Unreal, it's all actually there. So now we can go to Animations. And I'm just going to go to the store because I'm going to assume you don't have animations yet, but maybe you do. So we go to the store, and let's say we want to apply something from the Light Magic Pack. You click on that, and it shows you animations with your elf. If you click on the Customize Pack, you can now start changing things. So you can change speed. You can make it be really fast if you wanted to. Set to 50. You can change how much space it takes for the arms to do stuff. Never really seen an advantage to that, but you can do it. You can change how many frames are in there, and you can mirror it. So you can have a left-hander instead of a right-hander. I'm just going to stick with the default. And it'll give you all these different animations. You can click on them and see what they all are. You've got different animations, and you can choose whether you're going to do them in place or not. In addition, you can then add those to your assets, and they'll show up in your My Assets directory. I'll show you this. You can also go into the store, and let's say we look into that Light Asset Pack again. You can go up here now, you scroll up here, you can go into the animations, and you can actually search for animations. And you can look and see what they would look like with the character. So let's see what guitar playing looks like with our elf. Pretty funny, huh? You can sit here and you can rotate. You can do everything so you can see what they look like from all the different angles. If they're running, you can put up follow cameras. You can see just what the skeleton looks like. It's pretty handy. Let's say we want to do the YMCA dance. We can do that. Let's go ahead and add that to our character here. And now, what we want to do, we have it all on the elf, is we want to go to My Assets. I'm just going to show my big list of characters because I have tons of stuff. So I'm going to click My Character, and there are animations that the character has. I can add the additional animations if I want. So where was our YMCA? I go to My Assets again, Animations. There's the YMCA dance. So I can click on that, and it's got my elf. It's got the YMCA dance and the whole thing. We're going to add that to our in progress pack. So now we've got all the things we've done for that character. Go back to the characters. Now let's add it to her pack of animations. We click on her. You can see we've got everything. We'll choose to queue download. Now you've got choices for your download. You can download in FBX format, but don't do that. What you want to do is export in specific FBX for Unreal Engine. You can do the T-pose or you can do the original pose. In my case, I'm going to download with the T-pose. So click on Queue Download, and it will pull everything together. And when it's done, it says Download. So you click on Download here. Now we're going to download that into, oops, wrong folder. For a second. We're going to go into a folder I already have on the drive for different Fuse things called Fuse Creations, and I'm going to save the Mixamo elf.zip to there. It will download. Now, one thing you can do, and I'm going to do this just so we don't have to come back here, is you can also download your animations. So I can say, okay, I'm going to choose a bunch of different animations that I want. I'm just going to grab all these ones we just created for the elf. Oops. Actually, we could just grab that whole pack. We can say we're going to download those animations. And again, for Unreal Engine, the T-pose, we're not going to do any keyframe reduction. And we'll go with original pose. We'll say Queue Download. We'll do that for our animation pack. It may take a little bit longer. There we go. And then we'll download that as well. Only we are going to call it our Mixamo Elf in progress. Okay, so we have all those down. And I'm going to go ahead and open these up in the folder. All I'm going to do is I'm going to first unzip that to Mixamo Elf. And I'm going to unzip this to Mixamo Elf in progress. Now if we go up here and we look, in the Mixamo Elf directory we have an FBX for the elf, and we have a number of textures. In the Elf in progress we actually have FBX files for each of the animations for that character. Now we're going to jump back to Unreal and I'll be right back. Okay, now that you're in Unreal Engine, we are going to go ahead and we are going to create a new project based on a template. And while you could use, of course, any project you want, I'm going to choose to use a third-person template. That way we can actually see our character. So we'll call this Mixamo Test. Create our project. It will load up. And once it is loaded, we'll play just for a second. Make sure we can rotate and do all the things we expect to be able to do with our character. And now let's go ahead. And if you went to the mannequin directory, you would find the meshes for the skeleton and such. And we aren't going to really do anything with that, but I want to show you where that was found. Maybe it's just me, but it seems like they have some issues with their templates at the moment. Things don't always pop up where they seem like they should be. It's kind of a mess. But we're going to create a new directory. We're going to call it our Mixamo Elf. And then we'll go into that directory, and we're going to do an import. And when we import, we are going to go find where you saved your files. So in my case, it's under Fuse Creations and then the Mixamo Elf. You click on just mixamoelf.fbx because it will grab the textures. You say open. You can go ahead and open all these boxes. And for the most part, you're going to leave things alone. You're going to import it as a skeletal mesh because you already have a skeleton there. You're not going to worry about updating the reference pose. You can import morph targets if you want. Again, you don't have to. For our purposes, I'm not going to do it right now because it adds extra time. But you can. There shouldn't really be anything you have to change. We'll import animations, although it's highly likely that it didn't do the animations, which is why we exported the animation pack separately. And we'll say import. And because we're not importing the normal, or not the normals, but morph targets, because we're not importing the morph targets, it shouldn't take too long. There we go. You'll get some errors, and that's because the Unreal skeleton has extra bones that the Fuse skeleton doesn't, but it's not going to be an issue. So you bring that in, and you click on the Mixamo Elf skeleton, and you can pull it up, and it will load everything in. It just sometimes takes it a moment. There we go, compiling the shaders. Well, it does compile, and then I'll come back. Now all of our shaders have compiled, so you can see our character. You'll notice that none of the animations are there, just the T-pose animation. If we look at our skeleton, you can see that this bone is used by the current mesh, but there's no vertice weight, which is not necessarily a big deal. Again, their skeleton doesn't match specifically to the Unreal skeleton, which isn't an issue unless you're going to retarget animations that are bound to the Unreal skeleton, which we aren't going to do for this demo. That I will cover in the future animation video, or if you really want to see it, you can go back and look at my zombie shooter tutorials, but realize that the zombie shooter tutorials only cover it really, really briefly in the first or second video, and it's not really in depth. So we'll save this at the moment. And now we need to bring in all the animations. So let's go new folder, animations. And these animations will be specifically for the elf. So we'll go back to import. Let's go back up to Fuse Creations and find our elf in progress, which has all of our different animations. We can say open. And the skeleton we're going to apply is the Mixamo Elf skeleton. And we can leave everything else the same. Import all. Okay, so now we have all of our different animations. So if we double click on an animation, it will pull it up, and you can see that the character has the animation now. And we do have an idle animation. If we have a couple different idle animations, we'll take the one there. And what we will do is we'll save our animations. Let's go ahead and save all, so we save all of our assets to date. Let's go ahead and go to our third person character there. We're just going to go ahead and edit the one who's right there. We'll go to them. We will click on the mesh. We're going to change the mesh over to our Mixamo Elf. And the Mixamo Elf has a default of the T-pose. Now, we don't have a blueprint created, so we're just going to choose Use Animation Asset as a singular. We'll leave it looping and playing. And then we're going to choose the idle, or the idle 2. If you compile it, save it, there you go. So if we play our game now, she's there, and we can rotate around, and we can see her do the idle animations, but realize that, you know, if you start trying to move, because there is no animation blueprint, she just skates around. Skates around if she wants. But it's that simple. So it's like if you're doing any other type of animation. If we wanted to, make it to where we can press a button and she will play a different animation. That would be very simple. Let's find our character here. So our third-person character blueprint. And let's go ahead and let's just add a C. Or another C. Let's do more. Let's just go with a Y. So if we press Y, then for our character, we're going to play an animation on our skeletal mesh. And the animation we are going to play is going to be the YMCA dance. And then we release. We'll play our animation. And we'll go back to our idle pose, which is looping. And YMCA will be looping while we're pressing the key. So we'll compile, and we'll save, and we'll press play. And as you can see, she's moving around like normal. We press Y, and there we go. She's doing the YMCA dance. We let go, and she goes back to the idle pose. Realize there's no blend in between those either. It's just one jumping to the other. So blend spaces would help to cover that. Okay. And so that's it. That's how easy it is to use Mixamo Fuse and then pull those characters and those animations into Unreal. In a future video, we'll talk about how to do the retargeting, and that way you can import other ones. For now, if you know how to do retargeting, just import your animation and retarget the skeleton for the animation, and then retarget the animation to match your Mixamo elf. Otherwise, you can go back to the Mixamo website. You could choose to add the sword one, and then download that animation, and it would have the skeleton for the Mixamo elf already, or whatever character you created. So that's it, and thank you very much. If you like this video, please click the like button. If you're already a subscriber, please share this with your friends. If you're not a subscriber, please consider subscribing. You can find more information about mindless pursuits at the links below. And as always, I want to thank you for all of your interest and support. I'll see you in the next tutorial.